Hey guys, this is Kerry Martell here for the Yamhill Advocate. We're going to be covering today the third part of the Twitter files released by Twitter under the guidance of Elon Musk. Basically, as I mentioned in the previous video, Twitter has worked with, either hired or at least allowed access to, Twitter's internal communication document files, emails, that show how Twitter employees were deceiving the public, intentionally censoring and blacklisting users, preventing people from being able to report any type of information that the Twitter employees just didn't want people to know, purely upon the internal, personal, political viewpoints of its employees. Previous installments, they showed information about how they created blacklists, of users, and also how they censored important news stories done by other, well-known news report in agencies about the Hunter Biden laptop story. In this next installment, we're going to show how they did this even to Donald Trump. Before we get into that, I want to point out that Elon Musk has said Twitter is working on a software update that will show your true account status, so you know clearly if you've been shadow banned and the reason why and how to appeal that decision. And he says, truth brings reconciliation. Okay. So he says, Twitter will also soon start freeing the namespace of 1.5 billion accounts. These are obvious account deletions with no tweets or logins for years. Okay, so let's get up here a little bit. Twitter Files Part 3, Deplatforming the President. Okay, this one's big. This is a big one. Okay, so this one's done by Matt Taibbi, I think is how you pronounce his last name. This is the removal of Donald Trump from October 2020 to January 6th. This is literally during the last few months of the 2020 presidential election. The world knows much of the story of what happened between riots at the Capitol on January 6th and the removal of President Donald Trump from Twitter on January 8th. We'll show you what hasn't been revealed, the erosion of standards within the company in months before January 6th, decisions by high-ranking executives to violate their own policies, and more against the backdrop of ongoing documented interaction with federal agencies. The first installment covers the period before the election through January 6th. Tomorrow, Shellen Burgid will detail the chaos inside Twitter on January 7th. On Sunday, Barry Weiss will reveal the secret internal communications from the key date of January 8th. Whatever your opinion on the decision to remove Trump that day, the internal communications at Twitter between January 6th to January 8th have clear historical import. Even Twitter's employees understood in the moment it was a landmark moment in the annals of free speech, or annals of speech. Censored who said it, but they said, is this the first sitting head of state to ever be suspended? As soon as they finished banning Trump, Twitter execs started processing new power. They prepared to ban future presidents and White Houses, perhaps even Joe Biden. The new administration, says one exec, will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary. This exec who's had their information censored says, as stated in our rules and policies ban evasion policy, it is clear that another account is being used for the purposes of evading a ban. It is also subject to suspension. For government accounts such as President of the United States and White House, we will not suspend those accounts, but we will take action to limit their use. However, these accounts will be transitioned over to the new administration in due course. It will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary to alleviate real-world harm. Twitter executives removed Trump in part over what one executive called the context surrounding actions by Trump and supporters over the course of the election, frankly last 4+ years. In the end, they looked at a broad picture, but that approach can cut both ways. Hi, Vidya. I'm working with the Censored on my team to put together a doc to share with you with a point of view from research, ours, academics with whom we have been working with, etc. So basically, they've crafted a narrative. On DGT's, must be Donald Trump's, language as coded incitement to further violence. That's right. They've got academics, guys, who are saying that his language is coded. It's been coded to incite violence, guys. It's a bunch of nonsense. Continuing on, this exec says, in the meantime, here's our quick take. The decisions on whether to pull that particular tweet or use that as a last straw for Trump depends on many factors, including the overall context and narrative in which that tweet lives. We currently analyze tweets and consider them at a tweet-by-tweet basis, which does not appropriately take into account the context surrounding. You can use the yelling fire into a crowded theater example. Context matters, and the narrative that Trump and his friends have pursued over the course of this election, and frankly the last 4+ years, must be taken into account when interpreting and analyzing that tweet. Their larger question is around our moral imperative and decision as a company, which user sentiment should not drive based on, number one, censored, and I believe that his tweet does violate our rules when taking that historical context plus current climate into account. So basically, they've decided that they're going to add they're going to add their own interpretations of what Donald Trump tweeted to his tweets in order to justify removing it, because he said this, but we really think that he said this and this because of the historical context and the academic narrative and its coded language and all this other nonsense. That's just a narrative that they have crafted to justify what they already wanted to do, which was ban Trump from Twitter, and that's what they decided to do. Continuing on, the bulk of the internal debate leading to Trump's ban took place in those 3 January days. However, the intellectual framework was laid in the months preceding the Capitol riots. Before January 6, Twitter was a unique mix of automated, rules-based enforcement and more subjective moderation by senior executives. As Barry Weiss reported, the firm had a vast array of tools for manipulating visibility, and most of all, which were thrown at Trump and others pre-January 6. As the election approached, senior executives, perhaps under pressure from federal agencies with whom they met, more as time progressed and increasingly struggled with rules and began to speak of VIOSs as pretexts to do what they'd likely have done anyway. After January 6, internal Slack being a communications platform, showed Twitter executives getting a kick out of intensified relationships with federal agencies. Here's Trust and Safety head Yoel Roth lamenting a lack of generic enough calendar descriptions to concealing his very interesting meeting partners. So Roth says, Ed happens, I'm a big believer in calendar transparency, but I reached a certain point where my meetings became very interesting to people, and there weren't meeting names generic enough to cover. Anyway, let me know. Censored says, very boring business meeting that is definitely not about Trump. And Roth says back, pretty much. And then he says, definitely not meeting with the FBI, I swear. And then somebody responds, laugh my ass off. So he's meeting with the FBI, basically. These initial reports are based on searches for docs linked to prominent executives whose names are already public. They include Roth, former Trust and Policy Chief Vijaya God, and recently plank-walked Deputy General Counsel and former top FBI lawyer Jim Baker. One particular Slack channel offers a unique window into the evolving thinking of top officials in late 2020 and early 2021. On October 8th, 2020, executives opened a channel called US 2020 XFN Enforcement. Through January 6th, this would be home for discussions about election-related removals, especially ones that involved high-profile accounts, often called VITs, or very important tweeters. So Censored who sent this, but it says, hey everyone, Starting tomorrow, October 9th, until November 15th, this channel will be used for the following reasons related to the U.S. 2020 elections. Trends identified that required scaled investigations, high-profile account escalations that potentially require PII/soft interventions, scalable solutions required, edge cases for XFN consultation, highlight tech issues, bugs, tools, outages, Jira tickets. This is an enforcement channel between trust and safety, I think is what it means, and TWS, Twitter standards probably, to help speed up our responses related to election issues over the coming few weeks. GET will start providing a hand over starting APAC shifts tomorrow, Friday, October 9th, using the following template: handover, next shift, EMEA/APAC/NA, Thursday, October 8th, 2020, GET, open escalations, etc., etc. Can you please make sure everyone on our team is within the channel? The teams that we included are as follows: site integrity, safety policy, product trust, safety operations, media ops, global escalation team. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. A lot of these teams, by the way, have a lot of overlaps between them. So they've created this elaborate bureaucracy within Twitter, basically, which is designed largely to censor people. Continuing on, there was at least some tension between safety operations, a larger department whose staffers used a more rules-based process for addressing issues like porn, scams, and threats, and a smaller, more powerful cadre of senior policy execs like Roth and God. The latter group were a high-speed Supreme Court of moderation, issuing content rulings on the fly, often in minutes and based on guesses, gut calls, even Google searches, even in cases involving the president. So we have an example here from their Slack. Censored says, hi everyone, received this escalation just now of a tweet from Donald Trump that says, breaking news, 50,000 Ohio voters getting wrong absentee ballots, out of control, a rigged election. And another censored employee at Twitter says, a rigged election would be enough to be in violation, right? And Roth says, if the claim of fact were inaccurate, yes. But it looks like that's true. And they looked at NPR story to verify whether something is true or not. Continuing on. During this time, executives were also clearly liaising with federal enforcement and intelligence agencies about the moderation of election-related content. While we're still at the start of reviewing the Twitter files, we're finding out more about these interactions every day. Policy Director Nick Pickles is asked if they should say Twitter detects misinformation through ML, human review, and partnerships with outside experts. The employee asks, I know that's been a slippery process, not sure if you want our public explanation to hate on that. So, Nick Pickles is asked, are you comfortable with marketing talking about misinformation by saying that we detect it through ML, human review, and partnerships with outside experts? You know, it's been a slippery process, so not sure if you want our public explanation to hate on that hat. And Nick Pickles says, can we just say partnerships? He's not sure we describe the FBI/Department of Homeland Security as experts or some NGOs, that is, non-governmental organizations that aren't academic. Pickles quickly asks if they could just say partnerships. After a pause, he says what I just said before. So the post about the Hunter Biden laptop situation shows that Roth not only met weekly with the FBI and Department of Homeland Security, but with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Bot application, whatever that is. Yule has checked in. Here's what they said. What's new for you since our last check-in? Hacked materials exploded. We blocked the New York Post story, which is referring to the Hunter Biden story. Then we unblocked it, but said the opposite. Then said we unblocked it, and now we're in a messy situation where our policy is in shambles. Communications is angry. Reporters think we're idiots, and we're refactoring an exceedingly complex policy 18 days out from the election. In short, FML-Weekly sync with FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and DNI regarding election security. The meeting happened about 15 minutes after the aforementioned hack materials implosion. The government declined to share anything useful when asked. A monthly meeting with FBI, FITF, briefed on several ongoing investigations. So Twitter is reporting to the FBI about what they're doing. And, that's wonderful. Ross' report to the FBI is almost farcical in its self-flagellating tone. We blocked the New York Post story, then unblocked it, but said the opposite. Tom's angry reporters think we're idiots. In short, fuck my life. Oh, that's what he meant. FML means fuck my life. Okay, yeah, so he was frustrated. Some of Roth's later slacks indicate his weekly confabs with federal law enforcement involved separate meetings. Here he ghosts the FBI and Department of Homeland Security, respectively, to go first to an Aspen Institute thing, then take a call with Apple. Hey there, I have to miss the FBI and DHS meetings today. Unfortunately, I saw you're on the invites for both as our site policy. Can you give me a quick readout if there's anything interesting that comes up? Sure thing. I hope everything's okay. Yeah, just have conflicts at both times, says Roth. An Aspen Institute thing this morning on vaccines that I have to present at. Then a call with Apple to avoid us getting kicked off the App Store due to the Department of Homeland Security one. And Patrick Conlon says, those both seem very important. And Ross says, indeed. So you even got Apple getting on the business to pressure Twitter to suppress stuff, apparently. Here the FBI sends reports about a pair of tweets, the second of which involves a former Tippecanoe County, Indiana counselor and Republican named John Basham, claiming between 2% and 25% of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. Okay, so this one was, we just got a report from the FBI concerning 2 tweets. So the FBI is asking them to remove tweets now. So, which says, related to the shredding of mail-in ballots, this is proven to be false via this PolitiFact, very credible source PolitiFact, It's largely funded by the Democrats. This is, I believe, was deemed no win on numerous occasions. The FBI's second report concerned this tweet by John Basham, and it says, editorial, the Democrats are in a complete panic as their massive push for vote by mail is backfiring on them. 2 things are unfolding. Unexpected number of registered Republicans are returning ballots, and between 2 to 20 and 25% of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. The FBI flagged tweet then got circulated in the enforcement Slack. Twitter cited PolitiFact to say the first story was proven to be false, then noted the second one was deemed no VO on numerous occasions. The group then decides to apply a learn how voting is safe and secure label because one commenter says it's totally normal to have a 2% error rate. Roth then gives the final go-ahead to the process initiated by the FBI. So Roth says, I think we use the mail-in voting label for the same one as is. Examining the entire election enforcement Slack, we didn't see one reference to moderate requests from the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, or Republicans generally. We looked. They may exist. We were told they do, however, they were absent here. Libs of TikTok has a comment on here. Say, let's go. The story just sort of broke off here. I think that I might have more of it continued here. Oh, here we are. Okay. Examining the entire election enforcement Slack, we didn't see one reference to moderation requests from the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, or Republicans generally. We looked. They may exist. We were told they do. However, they were absent here. So basically, only the Democrats and the FBI, of course, and Department of Homeland Security, apparently even, are asking for Twitter to remove posts, and the Republicans are not doing this. This inspires a law in Slack that reads like a Titanium McGrath parody. I agree it's a joke, concedes a Twitter employee, but he's also literally admitting in a tweet a crime. The group declares Huck's an edge case, and though one notes we don't make exceptions for jokes or satire, they ultimately decide to leave him be because we've poked enough bears. Could still mislead people, could still mislead people, the humor-averse group declares before moving on from Huckabee. So this whole thread here, let's see if I can read as much of this as I can. So, a censored employee at Twitter says, "Hello, putting this tweet on everyone's radar. This appears to be a joke, but other people might believe it. Can get your weigh in on this." This is a Mike Huckabee post, Governor Mike Huckabee. And Roth says, "Ugh, yeah, I saw this one last night. I agree it's a joke, but he's also literally admitting in a tweet to a crime." Oh, is he? Could still mislead people, says another employee, but though misleading in my opinion, I don't think it can unduly influence the election. Could still mislead people. Roth says, "Yeah, I could see us taking action under misleading claims that cause confusion about the established laws, regulations, procedures, and methods of a civic process, but it's not one that we could really label in a useful way, so it's removal of a stupid, ill-advised joke or nothing. I may be inclined not to remove without a report from voting authorities, given it's been a while since he tweeted it, and virtually all the replies I'm seeing are critical / counter speech. PC, on lawn, aerodynamics, R. Summers. What do you think?" I guess these are employees that he's tagging in the Slack chat. And then people say in return, "I tend to agree. I feel like it's really an edge case, and we've poked enough bears recently." Conlon, somebody censored, says, "Oof, I just saw this. Look at the replies now to get a feel for it. Much confusion is being generated. A quick glance indicates that people aren't confused, but I have concerns. Under the policy, we don't make exceptions for jokes or satire, so while I doubt that Huck was really this stupid and is joking, I'm inclined to say that it should come down. I wonder how much of it is an attempt to play the ref prior to the congressional hearing. In that, the goal is to get censored, but yeah, as Patrick says, the policy didn't have that carve out." Another employee says, "The thrust of the joke seems to be that mail-in ballots are for the fraudulent votes, so I could see an argument for our mail-in voting label, but absent confusion, I'd also be inclined to leave the joke alone." So basically, they have this entire thread about wanting to censor a joke made by a politician, because it's just very clear here. They're just looking to any justification they can to censor politicians they don't like. That's basically what it comes down to. Ross suggests moderation, even in this absurd case, could depend on whether or not the joke results in confusion, which is a subjective assessment. This seemingly silly case actually foreshadows serious later issues. In the docs, executives often expand criteria to subjective issues, like intent. Yes, a video is authentic, but why was it shown? Orientation. Was a banned tweet shown to condemn or support? Or reception, such as, did a joke cause confusion? This reflex will become key in January 6. Another example, Twitter employees preparing to slap a mail-in voting is safe warning label on a Trump tweet about a postal screw-up in Ohio before realizing the events took place, which meant the tweet was factually accurate. So Trump says a rigged election, and there's a tweet, and then the Slack comment about, or at least the dialogue that Twitter employees are having about the tweet, is censored employee shows it, and then says, "Not sure what the process is for GT. Are we expected to do the policy?" Comes right up for Donald Trump. Trump just posted these two tweets. He tags Yarl in it, and they're asking if they should censor it. And they're waiting. It says, "Wait until Yoel wakes up." And another Twitter employee says, "I've been on PTO, so not 100% up to speed. My understanding, pay time off, is what PTO means. My understanding in both cases is that the events took place and that the commentary by President of the United States is his opinion related to these real events so that there wouldn't be any labeling action/violation on our side." Roth says, "Yeah, those are factually accurate." And another Twitter employee says, "Thanks for clarifying." So, continuing on. Very well done on speed. Trump tweet was being visibility filtered as late as a week before the election. Here, senior execs didn't appear to have a particular violation, but still worked fast to make sure a fairly anodyne Trump tweet couldn't be replied to or shared or liked. This tweet says, big problems and discrepancies with mail-in ballots all over the U.S. Must have final total on November 3rd. And the Slack communications with Roth says, what's the team's recommendation? Anonymous Twitter employee cites a Google Docs document, and Roth says, thank you, agree with the recommendation. Flagging right now with leadership given it's President of the United States. Employee says, we'll set up a call. And Roth says, can we use a new doc per PII review? Anonymous says, okay, we'll also include that in our playbook after. And then, of course, they updated their document. And Roth says, EDI approved. So very well done on speed. The group is very pleased the Trump tweet is dealt with quickly. So Roth says, let's inform stakeholders and move forward. And Anonymous says, did you still want to do a call? You know, I'm thinking that this anonymous person in blue might be somebody at the FBI or Homeland Security. That could be actually be who they're talking to. Continuing on, Roth says, no, can skip pager duty too. Roth says, happen to already be talking to everyone involved. Going to apply the EDI now. Is there a thread already with comms, etc.? And the anonymous says, drafting up now. Email sent. And very well done on speed, folks. What this is all designed for, and a huge positive for the platform. So they're admitting they're intended to censor politicians, such as the President of the United States. A seemingly innocuous follow-up involved a tweet from actor Real James Wood, whose ubiquitous presence is argued over Twitter data sets is already a Twitter Files in-joke. After Woods angrily quote-tweeted about Trump's warning label, Twitter staff, in a preview of what ended up happening after January 6, despaired of a reason for action, but resolved to hit him hard on future violations. Considering the PV2 bug outs this weekend regarding James Woods being so over the strike limit that our tools won't work on him, I suggest we action him for something worth the fiasco rather than the screenshot, so we don't have a firm policy basis for action on his account. And our employee says, yep, are you fine letting this one lie? Can hit him hard on future violations with firmer basis. So basically, we couldn't get him today on a hard thing, so we're going to hit him harder on something else than we normally would as retaliation for his political viewpoints. Wonderful, wonderful things going on at Twitter, folks. Continuing on, here a label is applied to Georgia Republican Congresswoman Jody Hice for saying no to big tech censorship, and mailed ballots are more prone to fraud than in-person balloting. It's just common sense. So here's the tweet, okay? And they added a stay informed sort of thing to it. Twitter teams went easy on Heiss, only applying soft intervention with Roth, worrying about a wah-wah censorship optics backlash. The quoted tweet still shows up with the EDI, and the actual content Rep. Heiss says is lower level, more fraud with mail-in ballots than in person, is much more of a legitimate statement than if scale is still minuscule. I think I'd lean towards just putting a MIB soft intervention on this rather than the full EDI. Roth agrees. Content agrees, says, yep, I was just typing that. And Roth says, I think going too far down the rabbit hole of labeling critical speech, that is, critical of our handling of this case, is dangerous, becomes a self-reinforcing wah-wah censorship cycle. And Conlon says, I'm currently responding to Judicial Watch's whining to public policy. I regret nothing, but I'm happy to iterate what rules they violated. So they're bragging about how they censored Judicial Watch's Twitter account, which is a watchdog group of exactly what Twitter is freaking doing. They're trying to make sure that private companies don't engage in censorship. Meanwhile, there are multiple instances of involving pro-Biden tweets warning Trump may try to steal the election that got surfaced only to be approved by senior executives. This one, they decided, just expresses concern that mail ballots might not make it on time. So here's a tweet that was put out by Elijah Daniel that says Trump might steal the vote. And this is the Twitter, the Slack of the same people, who were so eager before to censor everybody else, saying, hey, team, can I get your opinion on this tweet? This is an edge case with commentary encouraging voters not to vote by mail. I believe we should label it. And Condon says, I think that I'd not bother with labeling this one. It's still encouraging people to vote, but expresses the concern that mailed ballots might not make it in time, which seems fair in this case to this close to the election date. So encouraging people to turn in their ballots in person or vote in person. That's understandable. Even the hashtag Steal Our Votes, referencing a theory that a combo of Amy Content Barrett and Trump will steal the election, is approved by Twitter brass because it's understandable and a reference to a U.S. Supreme Court decision. So here's this one that's saying they're going to steal our votes, and this is what they claim inside Twitter. So Roth says, I'm not seeing the violation here. Steal our vote. Oh, And Content says, I wouldn't label. I think that's encouraging people to vote, but to be realistic that a mail ballot might not make it in time. They're literally saying they're going to steal the vote, and they're like, oh no, it's about mail-in ballots not going to get there in time, which is not what the tweet says. It's amazing. And then it says, I was wondering about this part, Trump and his new Amy Content Barrett SCOTUS will try to steal our votes, so the Supreme Court appointee. And Content says, that's understandable because it's a reference to the U.S. Supreme Court decision on processing mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day. That's ridiculous, completely ridiculous. It just shows that, they're extremely biased people who are looking for things to tag Republicans about while allowing Democrats to say whatever the fuck they want. Continuing on, in this exchange, again, unintentionally humorous, former Attorney General Eric Holder claimed the U.S. Postal Service was deliberately crippled, ostensibly by the Trump administration. He was initially hit with a generic warning label, but it was quickly taken off by Roth. So here's Eric Holder saying it's too late to use the mails given Supreme Court rulings. I urge everyone now, vote in person, early vote, or use drop boxes. Protect your health. Don't let the court deliberately crippled Postal Service and the deliberately crippled Postal Service deprive you of your most precious civil right. Plan your vote. And they say they're working on reversing it. Yeah, I have removed the moment label. I'm still trying to remove the EDI. Removed. Yeah, they removed it. So later in November 2020, Roth asked if staff had a debunk moment on the Skittle/Smartmantic vote counting stories, which his Department of Homeland Security contacts told him were a combination of about 47 conspiracy theories. So Roth admits to having the Department of Homeland Security referred it to me on a call today, sadly not public, as a combination of about 47 different conspiracy theories, so hopefully there's stuff still out there. On December 10th, as Trump was in the middle of firing off 25 tweets saying things like, a coup is taking place in front of our eyes, Twitter executives announced a new L3 de-amplification tool. This step meant a warning label could now also come with de-amplification. So Content says, hello everyone, I wanted to give you an update on some of our enforcement options for tweets containing the civic misinfo that we've seen. It's been decided that tweets that we've manually reviewed and determined need a label will now be subject to L3 de-amplification, further restricting the extent to which that tweet can be shared. The current batch of entity IDs will soon be used for automated labeling work, but I've created a new batch of entity IDs for the labels that we've been using the most during the past couple of weeks. Labels that we've only rarely used or that have been depreciated already haven't gotten an L3 update. If there's a moment when we need the L3 version for one of these labels, please flag it to Matt Granon or myself. And basically, more tools to censor people with. Some executives wanted to use the new de-amplification tool to silently limit Trump's reach more right away, beginning with the following tweet. This is from Newsmax. In the end, the team had to use older, less aggressive labeling tools, at least for that day, until the L3 entities went live the following morning. The significance is that it shows that Twitter in 2020 at least was deploying a vast range of visible and invisible tools to rein in Trump's engagement long before January 6th. The ban will come after other avenues are exhausted. In Twitter docs, executives frequently refer to bots. Let's put a bot on that. A bot is just any automated heuristic moderation rule. It can be anything. Every time a person in Brazil uses green and blob in the same sentence, action might be taken. So the bots basically are automated filters that are reading everything that somebody tweets, and then, if there's a rule that matches the filtering rule, that tweet is filtered. In this instance, it appears moderators added a bot for a Trump claim made on Breitbart. The bot ends up becoming an automated tool invisibly watching both Trump and apparently Breitbart, and by January 26, was quickly covered in bots. So basically they had a bunch of stuff. Anytime you tweet about certain things, it would automatically be censored. So here's an employee saying, "Hey team, I'm going to add a fraud claim label to this claim of fraud in about 40 seconds of video." And Rob says, "Yep." And employee says, "I'll also add a media ID to bot." There is no way to follow the frenzied exchanges among Twitter personnel from between January 6th and 8th without knowing the basics of the company's vast lexicon of acronyms and Orwellian unwords. To balance an account is to put it in timeout, usually for a 12-hour review cool-off. Interstitial, one of the many nouns used as a verb in Twitter speak, denialist is another, means placing a physical label atop a tweet so it can't be seen. PII has multiple meanings, one being public interest interstitial, covering label applied for public interest reasons. The post below also references proactive V, which means proactive visibility filtering. This is all necessary background to January 6th. Before the riots, the company was engaged in an inherently insane/impossible project, trying to create an ever-expanding, ostensibly rational set of rules to regulate every conceivable speech situation that might arise between humans. This project was preposterous, yet its leaders were unable to see this, having become infected with groupthink, coming to believe sincerely that it was Twitter's responsibility to control as much as possible what people could talk about, how often, and with whom. The firm's executives on day one of the January 6th crisis at least tried to pay lip service to its dizzying array of rules. By day 2, they began wavering. By day 3, 1,000,000 rules were reduced to one. What we say goes. In one case, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee joked tweets about mail-in ballots for his deceased parents and grandparents. Replying, okay, we'll have to continue on this way. Where's the rest of your message? Okay, it's 31. Oh, they're still posting. I've caught up with them, basically. So, oh no, it was 17 hours ago. So where's the rest of it? In one case, former Arkansas parents. Alright, guys. Well, I guess this is going to be the end of it because the chain has been broken. But I think you can kind of see here what's been going on, right? You understand the story here. Unless I can find another one. Yep, I guess that's the end of the line for Matt Taibbi's story. So part 2 is going to be coming out of the Donald Trump story probably tomorrow. This has been a very long video. I hope people were able to make it to the end. This is probably one of the most important stories of our lifetimes. I really think it is. It really shows what is going on at these large Silicon Valley companies who are believing that it is their mission, is their purpose in life to ensure that the Democrats can win elections by censoring the speech of anybody who is critical about them. Thanks, guys, for watching. See you in the next video.